Okay. Hey everyone. I guess today we are live at the office hours with Hamel and Shreya. Looking forward to that. I'll let them introduce themselves and then we get started. Hamel.
Who's going first?
Hamel.
Okay. Hi, I'm Hamel. I don't really know how to introduce myself. I'm an AI engineer that is an independent consultant that works with a whole bunch of companies. I've been working with large language models for a really long time, like 5 years or so. Also do a lot of open source work. That's me. Give it over to Shreya.
Yeah, I'm Shreya. I am a researcher. I study AI engineers, and then I try to think about data management solutions for their problems. And then I also do side work as an engineer, so as an ML engineer. And that's fun.
Awesome.
I like building.
Thank you both. Both their introductions are extremely understated, so I'll just follow along. Hi, I'm Eugene. I sell books at a bookstore. I tend to, in my past, I used to work with recommendations and search, but now I'm also dabbling, figuring out how we can use generative AI to improve the customer experience. I think Hamel doesn't need to be introduced. He just had this crazy post about evals. I wonder, maybe we could chat about that a bit. Like, what inspired you to write about that? Or like,
Yeah. So, as a person who's doing machine learning for a while, I have confetti coming over here.
nice.
I think it's a special effects thing. It's like
Yeah, I'm trying to clap, but I don't have a clap.
Is it
so
a
that's
Mac
the
thing?
next best thing.
Is it a new Mac?
that was intentional. It wasn't like that auto thing that happens sometimes.
It was intentional. I wanted to do a clap, but I've only got confetti and balloons. Those are the closest thing.
Oh,
and maybe fireworks.
Oh, I don't know. Okay. You have to afterwards. You show me how to use that.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out myself.
Yeah. So,
if you see the green video icon in your toolbar.
Oh.
And then go to reactions and click that drop down.
Oh, so it's like a Mac thing then?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, I see.
But they really need a clap one, so that way we can clap for your blog post. Anyways, I'm like really derailing what you're saying. You should.
No. This I was. Anyways.
Hey, wait. Who's this birthday boy?
My dinner got delayed an hour, so I'm gonna hang out while I work on Instructor.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! Yeah.
Man, I'm 30 now. It's a weird feeling for sure.
Hamels was just talking about his evals post.
Yeah. So okay, what inspired me was like, okay, as a machine learning engineer, has been doing ML for a really long time. Like evals are like in your bones. Like it's like the thing that's been most important thing in ML, like for a long time. If you're working on any ML project, like like you start with evals and you think about them, you like lose a lot of sleep over them. Everything centers around that. You iterate with evals, and it's like very like second in like if you've been an ML engineer for like more than 5 years, like it's like in your subconscious. Like you might not even say it's important, but that's what you do. So like I guess like when this LLM stuff started happening, there's a lot of people like that are not ML engineers that started working on this stuff. But then like everyone was like very confused, like how do you evaluate this? And like I like took it for granted for a really long time that people don't know. I was like, oh, like, I don't want to say anything because I'm just gonna say stupid, obvious things that everyone knows, and I don't want to embarrass myself or don't want to, I don't even like what am I gonna say? And then eventually people helped me understand that like, hey, this is like not obvious. It's not obvious how to like evaluate something. We don't really know what to do. It's a lot of questions. And then a lot of the same things apply. A lot of the same techniques and same thinking applies to LLMs. So it's really like, for me, when I started working on LLMs, helping people work with LLMs, like it was pretty intuitive, like really the same ideas, some tweaks for LLMs, but like really the foundation is there. So I decided just to write about it because there wasn't that like any really good things online that showed people examples and like kind of a process on like how to think about evaluation. And I kept getting the same question over and over again, like every conversation. Basically, it was like, "You need evals." Like any person contacting me for consulting, 100% of the time, people weren't doing evals, and also 100% of the time, the first thing that I would recommend, like, "Hey, I'm gonna do this project for you," is gonna be evals. So I was like, let me just write it up so people can get the benefit of that, and so that's why I wrote it.
Yeah, I think what I really loved about it is that, again, I have another data point to just show people, hey guys, simple assertions get very far. I think Brian spoke about that, and then I'm so glad that I saw Hamel write about that. I mean, it's just another data point for me to just say that, hey guys, just don't forget your basic assertions. They'll do a lot.
There's a lot of good stuff. I linked to Jason's blog post about RAGs.
Reg evals.
Yeah, I really like his blog post a lot about RAG evals. He has a blog post called Levels of RAG or something like that, which is really good. Kind of the similar energy. It's like very intuitive stuff that you probably, it's like do these things, measure things in a certain way. But like, if you're not like an ML person, you may have not been exposed to that. And yeah, it's like, so anyways, that's kind of an overview.
Jason's too shy to comment about his own writing.
I'm working on instructor V1.
What's the difference between V1 and V0?
So all the types are actually correct. So like if you do like create partial, it will be a generator of the type that matches the response model. So your IDE is going to be very happy. That's
I
basically
see.
the first thing. And the second thing is I also then try to standardize the API. So even if you do like from Anthropic or from OpenAI or from a light LLM, it's going to look like client.chat.completions.create. And then we just add response model, we add validation context, and we add max retries. So to the user, it should just be like Control F patch replace with from OpenAI. But what's happening behind the scenes is that you're gonna get like complete type checking into complete like validated code. Whereas before, like if you use MyPy, we were like very unhappy with you.
I see. That would only work with OpenAI?
Hmm?
Would that only work with OpenAI APIs? Or
no, so now we're going to be a little bit more defensive. So if OpenAI changes their API or Anthropic changes their API, we will be a little bit safer.
Okay.
Yeah, I just hear that things are going to change.
Really?
I was like,
what are you hearing?
Just like things are going to change. So I was like, okay, fuck, I got to go protect myself against this because, yeah, refactoring from V0 to V1 was kind of a pain for OpenAI. So
I've heard on Twitter that there's all kinds of new APIs coming from OpenAI, like all kinds of like agents and all this other stuff. I have no idea.
Yeah, like there's going to be like voice and like how do you do chat with an audio file? So I don't know. It's going to be crazy.
What are the stats for usage of the like assistance API versus chat completions? I would be so curious.
I'll put like $1,000 that is less than 5%.
Assistance versus chat. Okay.
Because Anthropic is like 2%. Like, okay. With who, right? Like assistance API in the wild, or just like some Joe playing with his assistants. Even then, I think it's probably like less than 5%.
Really low.
Yeah. Let's put another way. I work with like 9 companies, and we have never even like imported assistants. Yeah. Because like real companies have infrastructure. like.
Yeah, I guess you don't need OpenAI to be running your database. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And there's beyond that, it's
me like cowering, using like importing an agent.
Yeah. Because it's like, maybe I would want to use it for like a simple code assistant thing, but as like real software goes, like half the services are like, oh, we encrypt the messages and we like have privacy this and encryption that, and like with OpenAI, you kind of just you're out of luck, especially with the RAG stuff. You know, like so much of RAG.
So I want to ask a bit more about that. Why is that the case? Don't they have decent enterprise support that takes care of the privacy and security?
I think it's just another part of like, what do you sell to the customer? Like come pay like $40 a month for us because all your like chat history is with OpenAI.
Yeah, I see. Okay, probably that's not
Right.
something that.
Maybe with like Google, I feel good about like having my data with Google, but like, who's OpenAI? I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, that's mostly how I think it would. Tests are failing. I made the beautiful
I
decision.
wonder what's new.
And now I'm regretting it.
How's the consulting going? Do you have moments to breathe? Or
No.
is it... Okay.
I'm very close to hiring an assistant. I'm trying to figure out like how much time they have available. And then hopefully they can just like, they basically will convert my to-do list to events in my calendar. And they're just like, okay, what do I do? Okay, 2 hours, write memo for so-and-so. It's pretty good. I'm onboarding 4 clients next week.
Wow.
Is it addition to the 7 that you have? Or 9 or... I don't know.
Yeah, it's overstretched right now.
It's inside the 9. Yeah, it's within the 9.
It's within the 9, okay.
Yeah. Get some work done with like Raycast, Dunbar, Bytebot, and hopefully like Tensor Lake as well, doing some like data extraction work.
Wow, Jason, the workaholic.
I know my hands are achy.
Pushing it. You're really pushing it, man.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Capitalism works. Like quite good.
How much time does that take so far?
What?
Like all of these?
The spreadsheets say 47 hours a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it really 47 hours a week? It sounds like it would be a lot more. Like
I think it's like less and more. It's more because like I have like 4 or 5 hours of just like intro calls a week that I like that's not in the spreadsheet, right? Like open source work is probably like 5-6 hours a week. Like I spent 4 hours on instructor only. Yeah. So like, okay, so that's like, so if you add those hours, now it's like 57 hours a week of like time at a computer.
So is it going to be more then starting next week?
No, the spreadsheet says 47. That's like the cap.
That's the forecast, including...
Yeah, forecast 47 hours a week. Exactly.
Okay.
Do you find that you always underestimate or overestimate?
That will be the assistant's job. To go like every week, like every Sunday, review the last week and like count all the hours and go like, hey Jason, like the effective dollars per hour for this client is $900 and the effective dollars per hour of this client is $200. Get your shit together. Like that's what I need. And I need to go to that client and be like, hey, this is supposed to be async, but I've helped you do like 5 job interviews. Like wow. Maybe I want a percentage of their salary instead of just the advisory time. So
Jason, the recruiter.
Yeah, actually, that's actually quite high in demand from VCs and founders.
Interviewing?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm doing it for like $200 an hour. Like that's not. That's not okay.
Yeah.
So I gotta calculate. Shreya is just like, once I graduate, I want to be rich.
I mean, Shreya can probably do it right now.
Yeah.
The market is really crazy for recruiting. You don't even have to interview. If you just like help them go through their spreadsheet of candidates, I bet you could charge the same.
I know. So I'm doing like the cheapest interviewing service like I've ever
You
seen.
need chief of staff. Just
Yeah.
put out a call for chief of staff.
Well, I'm
and-
hiring. Like the interest. Okay, so let's talk about this in less of like a obnoxious flex that I'm finding a personal assistant. I work with a bunch of AI companies that do AI assistants, and just like answering the question of like, what do I want an assistant to do, makes me realize that all these real assistants are fucking useless.
Mm.
Right? Because like I don't want to tell the AI assistant to write an email. Like the request I have is way higher level. Right? Like
But
I
don't
want
you?
to like manage the designer for the instructor landing page. Right.
So let me push back a bit on that. Don't you think that at the start of every new innovation, it's always going to be disappointing at the start? It's like innovator's dilemma, right? At the start,
Nuclear bomb was pretty fucking sick. Like there are some technologies that just but like I think there's good technology. I think it's just the fact that like we don't actually people who are building these assistants like don't have assistants. Like how are you dog fooding?
yeah,
You're like
yeah.
saving like we're like we'll call you an Uber. It's like okay, but like that saves me what like 6 minutes.
A lot of people building LLM tools, just
Don't
even
use them.
developer tools, they're not using those tools.
You know what I mean?
At
Like,
all.
Yeah.
like okay, I think the open interpreter demo is super sick, but like what I don't actually ever need an AI to do is to create a calendar event. Like my assistant was like, oh, one of the things I would like to do is just like every Sunday, I'll look at your calendar. If there's any like too many back-to-back meetings, I'm gonna look out for you. Send those emails like Monday morning to reschedule and spread out your Monday meetings across the week. You're like, wow, like if I could pay you $80 an hour to help me do that, like I get to like piss and shit on a Monday. Like this, like, the value is incredible. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
The way
I
I'm
did,
thinking,
I
like,
missed lunch
that
twice.
sounds pretty insane. Yeah. No, I'm saying the bathroom breaks. That sounds brutal.
His schedule sounds crazy, right? Yeah, that's the thing. For me, actually, when I schedule my meetings, it's always 25 minutes or 55 minutes. There's a 5-minute break. But everyone always just overruns. So
yeah, like someone's 5 minutes. Yeah, but like that's the schedule. Like that's the AI scheduling app. The AI scheduling app is like, Jason, like you block out. The reason that this happens is because of I use cal.com. So people are like basically randomly placing meetings across the time that I've allotted. Right. So now I'm managing like different tiers of calendar. So like my 30-minute meeting is only between like 11 and 2 p.m. on like Tuesdays and Thursdays, but then I have a direct that's like 9 to 5. And I'm just like, why am I doing this? Like,
well, you're in demand.
but it's like those back-to-back meetings are only Mondays and Tuesdays. Right. But just like defragging the schedule is kind of crazy. Like it's just like I think I'm definitely willing to pay $80 to not have like 9 hours of meetings on a Monday, even like twice a month.
9 hours of meeting on a Monday?
9 hours of meeting on any day is just
all the onboarding happened on a Monday.
That's the thing. So Hamel was telling me about.
I fucked up.
There's no way. There's like, I mean, oh my god, that's insane.
Yeah, so Hamel was,
but like no one was looking out for me, right? Like, I just Sunday morning, I look at my calendar and I was like, oh fuck. It's like 8:30. I'm like, I have 15 minutes on 3 p.m.
I think it's also because you have way too many clients. Like Hamel was just telling me about things that he does that I would not imagine a consultant does, and I'm also quite surprised that you as a consultant, as a technical consultant, you have so many meetings. I thought that's what people leave corporate jobs to avoid.
I would probably
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I have 2 hours of meetings.
If I let if my conversion rate was a bit higher, but yeah, I just have the clients that I have and just have the free time that I do. So
that sounds nice, really, actually.
Yeah.
If not, you wouldn't be able to squeeze out that.
And like, and don't get me wrong, right? Like, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, there's like 2 hours of meetings. It's not that I have 9
That's
hours
nice.
of meetings every day. It's just because like all the clients want to like get started on Monday.
Okay.
So everyone just like booked the Monday, and I was like, oh no, like like the AI assistant should be doing that. The AI assistant isn't the like, oh, do you have time like when Jason is available? It's more like, oh, let me like intervene. Let's like make decisions around trade-offs and like resources. Those are the things that are cool, right? Like I'm gonna like those are the things I realize. Oh, like the assistant, a good assistant is not doing what the AI assistants are being programmed because these developers have never had to delegate in their life. And they think delegation is like send the email to the designer and ask them. It's like that's already too much work. That's what I'm realizing.
You also mentioned that you're doing a lot of recruiting. So recently I saw this tweet from Han. I don't know if you know him. He was like saying that self-taught programmers are zero interest rate policy.
That's
And
all
right now everyone's hiring only masters of CS or PhDs, etc. Is this is like how are you seeing this? I know it's a hiring manager's market right now, but I don't know about.
It was like that back in the day, by the way.
Yeah.
Like there
2017.
was it was definitely like that at some point in the era of the data scientist.
So basically, I guess
Very much so.
the need for educational qualifications has always been there, except for when there was a hiring frenzy during the COVID period.
It's more like there's so much shit out there. Like I just need arbitrary rules. Like I just need to make decisions on precision at this point. Like I don't give a shit about recall. Right?
Gosh.
Like
Just
that's
people like a crazy hacker rank.
yeah, like I was the only like non-PhD hire at Stitchfix, and that was just like pure like personality hire. But there's just so many applicants, and they're all just like kind of bad.
Yeah, I'm wondering because there's so many layoffs or silent layoffs happening, and a lot of people are saying that junior developers are not going to get hired right now. Not going to get hired, right? People just
Wow.
sort of want to see. Really? Then what does that mean for the structure of the tech industry in general?
I don't know. 'Cause
What happens to all those junior devs?
I think it's
Go to
cyclical.
startups.
I think it's cyclical. Like it always happens.
Has this happened before?
Yeah.
I don't recall this happening before. Yeah.
It's happened in like, the .com era a bit. I know I'm like probably the oldest.
Yeah,
That was
old.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, like, what the hell is that? What is .com?
I was 5.
Yeah, so I was in college during that. Like I was graduating, but like
Did you graduate post bust?
I graduated slightly before the bus, so the worst time possible.
So what did you do? You were junior dev then just came out of school.
No, I just so I went from one bubble to another bubble. So like that bubble kind of imploded, and I found so around that time when like the .com whatever, I was like doing like software engineering, and then there was this like thing about, oh, you should do like operations research and like statistics and all this shit. It was like pre-data. It was kind of pre-data science. So I went to go work at a bank doing like credit risk forecasting. But that bank actually, it was like during this other bubble called the mortgage refinance bubble.
Yeah.
That bank is called Washington Mutual, but that bank went imploded because of that specific bubble. So I went from that bubble to another bubble, and then like I actually went from that bubble to like a different bubble that imploded, and then finally found my way here. But this bubble has been fine, like
So far.
In comparison, I guess, to like 2008.
Yeah.
We recovered super quickly. That's the real thing. I mean, my Stitch Fix stuff hasn't recovered, but like I think we just recovered really quickly. It was like bad, but only for like 2 years.
Yeah, only 2008. Yeah.
Right. Like Hamel, does it feel that way? Was it just like the same badness, but like 3 times faster, or was it just not as bad?
2008.
No, right now.
I mean, I can't compare
right
now. I mean, like for COVID 2008, but
Oh, COVID, yes, another one. No, it doesn't
COVID?
feel that bad. No, I
That
don't
was a
think it's that
small
bad
blip.
right now. I don't think.
Not that bad. Okay.
But like, I'm kind of removed from it in a way because
Yeah.
I'm not a junior developer. I don't know what it.
But you sort of have the experience and the wisdom. And Jason's been doing a ton of hiring. So actually, how many resumes you get, and that you just cannot physically?
I don't look at the resumes. I just do the interviews.
I see.
But like people are fumbling on like, hey, what's like an impactful project you've done in the past couple of years, and like what were the trade-offs you had to make?
Why are they fumbling on that? Do they have actually
You just haven't done
experience?
anything hard. They're like, I've never had to make a trade-off. It's like, oh, I guess you either had unlimited resources or you were consuming no resources.
Someone said that.
Yeah,
Even if
like instant fail.
just,
I guess maybe just to them they didn't think it would sound that bad.
Yeah.
That's
never say that. Should
Well, you're like a computer scientist. That's quite hard to say. Like, I've never made any trade-offs.
Machine learning, right? It was like specific.
Oh, even worse. Yeah.
Right. Like the best answer was like, well, I had 2 evaluation metrics, and when I optimized for one, the other one fell. Like it could be that simple.
wow.
Like, or like, oh, the better models were slower, and so latency and model performance was a trade-off. Like that's all I want. That's all I want to hear is like, you know what I mean? But like that's been a challenge too. And like recently I interviewed someone. I was like, oh, you trained this like language model. How would you make it better? And they were like, oh, I didn't know this would be a technical interview.
Wait, how would you make it better? Is a technical
That's
question.
tough.
Yeah, I was like, what are the inputs and the outputs of your embedding model? Like what do you mean? Like, what? Like, so like you train an embedding model with like contrastive learning. He's like, what's that? I was like, okay.
I almost feel like Jason's exaggerating, or he's just really getting really.
I'm just
candidates.
exhausted, bro.
Wow.
You gotta start looking at resumes, maybe.
Yeah. Nothing longer than a page. Every time a resume has been longer than a page, it's been bad.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, time to update my resume.
Like
From 2 pages to 1. No
it's
kidding.
comically a reflection of their quality of thinking.
I don't even have a resume.
People with 3-page resumes and like no job experience talk a lot. It's so funny. Yeah. Like very weird things this cycle.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I wonder how it'll play out. I just met a bunch of founders and VCs, like even startups don't want to hire juniors, and like everyone's not optimistic about how junior devs will play out.
I think my take is like before you were like a tax incentive, like we're gonna go like pan for gold. We're optimizing for recall. Right? Like if we hired 10 shit interns and one of them was like incredible, like we're gonna capture this kid. They're not gonna go to Google. They're gonna stay at Facebook. It's gonna be epic.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like, how are you gonna make me money? Because like with AI, my company only needs to be 3 people. So this 4th person should like multiply the company. Right.
Do you think it's because of AI?
Well, I think it's just like.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No.
I had insane. Now I remembered. Someone was just telling me that AI is gonna change everything, right? Someone showed me this anecdote about. I won't mention company names, but there was a company that had 7 VPs of engineering.
That sounds unhealthy.
In 2 years, it became 2 VPs of engineering, and they cut from 700 people to 450, and they want to go to 300. I'm like, how is that possible? Are you cutting features? Are you like converging things? He said, no, more features. It's like everyone's going to be more productive. I actually don't know I don't know if it's actually happened that everyone's more productive, everyone just working way harder from 750 to 450. Or is it just like removing redundancies or converging tech stacks? I actually don't know.
You're removing edges in the graph. So
like the analog and complexity is just lower. Like,
oh yeah, that's true. So maybe it's more
like
productive.
when I work on a feature with 5 people, it's never faster than when I work on it by myself. Right?
Yeah.
And like
so I wonder how. So that's a little bit scary, right? I mean, I mean, I like people tell me they see as don't worry. There's always, for people who solve problems, there's always plenty of opportunities. But something like this, when the industry is cutting down so much, like one company cut down by 50% engineering staff. That's a lot. Yeah.
I'm not scared. I've been seeing so many bad recessions. I'm like, again, I'm like the grandpa, but like, it just like doesn't. It's like just feels. I'm
It's
like,
standard. This is standard.
yeah, I think it's
Really.
Yeah, it's been a lot worse before.
Yeah, I know there was a period like COVID period, like Airbnb cut a huge amount, and a lot of companies cut like 20% ish, 30%. So maybe that's standard, and we should be expecting that again. Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I love recessions. I just it's a good time to buy stock.
True. That's the same reason why I love it. But people do feel a little bit more down as well, and everyone's a little bit edgy and anxious. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're just all too far removed.
I mean, I remember during like the first like 2 or 3 times I experienced like a recession, I always felt like, oh my God, it's different this time. It's like
The end of the world.
it's not going to recover in the same way. We're never going to be the same again. And then eventually I was like, you know what? Like, it's just a cycle.
Gosh, this conversation took a solemn take. I apologize for that.
Yeah, when were we supposed to like interview Shreya? Like, was that?
I was gonna say, yeah, sorry
going
for
like-
making Shreya wait so long, but there was Shreya had a tweet thread about how people are not making too much noise about using GPT-4 at scale for data generation. And then as I dug into that, there was a lot of gold in her tweet thread about reliability and robustness, like some summaries not able to respect word limits. So I thought maybe I don't know if Hamel or Jason have actually seen something like that at all. So maybe you could chat about that, or maybe Shreya could share. Maybe you could summarize like what did you see when you tried to do that?
Oh, sure. I mean, okay, Hamel and Jason are the experts who have scalably generated stuff at scale, literally for different companies, probably. And a lot of
Close to a
No,
dozen
no.
companies combined.
Okay, so when I
adjectives,
say-
just evidence, let's use evidence. What does scalable mean? At scale, what does that mean?
Okay, a good question. I think it's when you want to generate some pipeline that will produce outputs that you may not inspect all the outputs, but you might aggregate those outputs and use them in some way. I think chat is the first class citizen for these APIs. And so people, I was quite surprised to see that, okay, I'm trying to build like a pipeline with Claude Opus to like ask questions in medical transcripts. And it failed miserably. Like I wanted to know some banter between like the patient and the doctor. And it was like, oh, there's no banter, or it would make up a banter or something. I was like, okay, that's
Wow,
odd.
that's bad.
GPT-4, I think, is better. I mean, I have a little observable notebook that I probably shared with people. I'm just like accumulating experiments.
I like that observation. It's really cool.
Oh, thank you. It's just one of those things where, you know, if I wanted to write a data processing pipeline with an LLM in the loop, it just wouldn't work unless I inspected all the outputs and did my vibe checks. I could run evals on all the outputs, but it's just, I don't want to do that if I have like hundreds of outputs and then I have to see the evals. I don't know. At the end of the day, it's like I might as well just label the data myself. And then it begs the question of like the reliability of LLMs anyways. I'm just curious what people's thoughts are on that.
I feel like one funny thing, it's like we talk about like the reliability of LLMs as if like other machine learning models are like reliable in any other way. Like I've shipped plenty of like 90 AUC models. I've shipped like 87 AUC models because that's just because like the goal is to make money. Like the outputs are inspected by our customers and then they buy a shirt. And like if I'm wrong, right? I think in the context of like being a doctor, it's very different. Like, you know, Boeing does that. But I always go back to like what is the business outcome we're like measuring and like is that okay? And if it's not, like there's an example where private equity folks are extracting data out of transcripts, and they know 3 interviews said something, and when we ask the LLM, there's only 2. Then they say like, "Hey guys, like this didn't like I know there's 3, you only pulled out 2. Like not having the third one could really impact our ability to like close this like PE deal, which is like a $50 million deal. Like I really care." Like those exist too, but I don't know. I feel like I just end up trying to measure the business outcome of like, are people like staying on the platform, are people churning out, and then just figuring out like what is my tolerance for this performance, right? Like
Where did you end up on that problem? Like, did you just say forget it, like it's not working?
no, I was like, hey guys, you need to come up
No,
with.
I was asking about Shreya's thing, the extraction of the medical.
The observable node. Was it just a experiment with the
Here,
85
I'll
samples?
share the.
Do you want
Yeah,
me do you want me to show it on screen? Is that okay?
sure. Oh no, I linked it in our chat, but I don't know if people.
Oh, we can put it in the comments so everyone can see.
Needle in
Oh
the
god, it's like in progress.
I don't know if
Comment
people
has
can
failed to
actually
post.
see stuff. I don't know if we can paste URLs in the chat, but
Oh.
I really enjoyed this as well. This is the same thing that I've observed in the sense that even though like the needle in haystack eval is all green, it's if you try to add a little bit of real world complexity into the task, it just works pretty bad. And Shreya, when you say it's pretty bad, really, like what is
where it was failing? Like, was it failing in the PDF to text part? Was it failing in?
No, this was text. Like I had the transcript.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Text
it was bad. Which task was bad? Simple, medium, hard?
The simple one was good. So I have 3 questions that I went through and annotated answers for. I asked a bunch of other questions that I'm in the process of slowly creating the ground truth for. The simple one is just give me the patient's name. Everybody got that except for Gemma. But I don't care about that. The medium one was what medications is the patient currently taking? And that one is kind of a retrieval. It's a retrieval over multiple positions in the document because they might be taking multiple medications and they're not all surfaced at the same time. Like it's just whatever is said in the conversation. And then the hard one is what is the longest sentence the patient said, where presumably the LLM has to do some sort of reasoning to figure out what's the longest sentence. The transcripts might not be good transcription quality. They might not have like periods. They might not have, it might be run on sentences, whatever it is. And for that case, it was like pretty bad. The only times where it got it right were in the beginning of the documents. And then everywhere else it was, but even then it was like, I did some like Jacquard similarity metric and it was like 50% on GPT-4.
Have you thought about fine tuning or tried that?
Oh, I'm sure. I don't have a need for this, and I think that I'm sure you can fine tune it significantly.
Like how does it work out of the box in a way?
Yeah, I want to know how does it work out of the box because, well, 2 things. Like I think that LLMs offer this promise of being able to build intelligent data processing pipelines that you want to run once for analysis. Like imagine if anybody could program that, that would be huge for like in entire industries. If they want to fine tune, that's fine. But I would love for us to get to a world where they don't have to do that, especially if they just do a one-time thing, right? If you're going to fine tune, you might as well just get somebody to annotate the data. And then like you don't need to run it on a schedule anyways. But when you want to build this kind of data processing pipeline, like imagine you can do this in Spark, right? Or you can like do this in DuckDB. That's huge, I think. But maybe I'm just too optimistic as a researcher.
So Shreya, like the question on recall for medication, what do you think is an acceptable level of performance?
I guess I just didn't have expectations coming in. But I think the performance is pretty good. It's just interesting
for medication,
yeah, the performance is pretty good for the GPT models. I think it's interesting that the models are kind of indistinguishable, and that they're reasonably like, I don't know, the positions I haven't done too much analysis on it, on
Yeah.
where it needs to be in the document, et cetera, et cetera.
It's pretty cool. I also wonder if you did the reverse of, did it mention a medication that the patient was actually not taking? So it's like the precision flip side of it.
I didn't do that.
Yeah.
What does the different bins mean? The bin 1, 2, 3.
Oh, which segment of the transcript? Is it in the first third, the second third, or the last third? We might be talking about something that nobody has access to. Oh no, okay, Eugene posted it. Good.
I posted. No, this is just really cool. When I saw Shreya did this, I do some of this, and I'm just trying to get more data points. And I think the defect rate, from what I see across many people, across a lot of people doing things, is like ideal defect rate is probably 5 to 10%. Obviously you want 0 to 2%, but like a standard baseline is 5 to 10%. So for the medium question, actually it does pretty well. For the hard question, that it doesn't.
Yeah, I guess like medium stuff is like recalling medications in a transcript. Like that's great. We were not able to do that a year ago.
Yeah.
It's awesome that 5 models can do this at the same performance. To me, I think I started with this analysis just wanting to develop intuitions for what models to use when. And then now I've done this analysis. I cannot tell you what models to use when. You have to benchmark them all, is what I've learned. That's like really annoying to me.
I have the same take. Different models actually perform differently for different tasks. And if you have a good set of evals, like what Hamel was writing about, it really just speeds it up, makes it easier.
So let me share my workflow, because my workflow, like if I was to build this like medication extraction, I'm gonna plug in structure again because clearly I'm that guy.
Great.
Like I'm actually doing this right now with a company where we're trying to figure out like what are memories worth extracting and what are preferences on conversation styles worth extracting, and then using that as the memory for the future agent. And so there's this question of like, what is precision recall? Do I have to assume that the extraction is 100%? And basically what I do is I just do like a sliding window over a transcript with some like stride and whatever. And I extract an object that's like the statement, a reason for why the statement was extracted, and then a list of integers that is the utterance IDs of that transcript. And then when I do this, I'll have extracted n pydantic objects. And then for each of these pydantic objects, my validator says, okay, look at these utterance IDs, take these utterance IDs, take like the 3 above and below it to create a sub-transcript, and just verify that the fact is relevant for that conversation. Then I have another validator that says, like, is this a meaningful memory?
Mm.
Right? And so like so-and-so is testing the microphones. Like this is true based on the citation, but it is not meaningful by this other validation. And then have a really easy metric of just like, I've extracted 100 memories, 85 of these memories pass the utterance test, and then 70 pass the meaningful test. And that's at least a number I can check. Right?
Is that an actual distribution of what actually passes and what actually fails? Because I see a very similar distribution.
Those are not the actual numbers, but
that's not actual. Okay.
I think it's more the architecture of just like,
gotcha,
extract, validate, throw away, verify has been like super helpful. And I feel like too many examples I've seen are just like, give me the answer in Markdown. Oh man, like that's hard to do something with. So I'm curious, Shreya, like, what are your thoughts on that kind of pipeline? Because that's kind of been the pipeline I've been doing for everybody.
Oh, I think it's great. I think you have to verify, and all of our work on assertions is like just so. Okay, all of my work in my PhD right now is how do we help people build LLM pipelines that they can run at scale using the definition of scale. So a lot of the work has been in assertions. Like you just need to have these assertions on outputs so you know what to throw out as a useless result. I think LLM-based validators, we're finding that you also can't really trust those outputs. Like who knows if those will align with what you want. They also get really costly and they're really hard to parallelize. Like if you're trying to do this kind of extracting memories thing, you have to go one chunk at a time, right? To some extent.
Do I?
Yeah. Otherwise, how are you like you said you're taking the summary above and the summary below or something? Maybe
No,
I'm
but
not
the utterance IDs are just part of the transcript. So like that's accessible like globally, right? So like
so you're not you don't have like intermediate LLM calls then.
no, yeah.
We
So
run all
I see,
chunks
I
in
see.
parallel.
take
Got
this
it.
document,
Okay.
split it n ways,
Yeah.
map the extraction task, reduce. Now I have n tasks,
Got it.
map the validation task, and then
Totally.
so-
I think that strategy is a good strategy, but sometimes people want to do like intermediate LLM calls and then they introduce dependencies and then it can take a while to process long documents.
that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I adopt the same approach, and there's this one anti-pattern that a lot of people adopt. I actually don't know if it's really an anti-pattern. Is that a lot of people really just focus on prompt engineering. They say, "Oh, we're going to use prompt engineering. We're going to do prompt chaining. We're going to add more data and everything." It's really like, okay, let's just try to sort of zero shot make everything work with the LLM. But even then, even in the most ideal case, you would still have 2 to 5% defects. I personally think that the post-processing, the post-guardrails is just unavoidable if you need high reliability. You do need that level of checks to just measure what's getting trained, what's not. So yeah, I think that's just essential right now.
Yeah. One final step of that pipeline too is when I extract all these objects, everyone's a pedantic object. I export it as a CSV and I make the co-founders label everything.
Oh, that's nice.
So I need you to tell me what you define as a memory. Like,
Yeah.
what is a memory? Like,
and then with that label, you can train a model if you want to.
well, it's less that. It's mostly a conversation of like, oh, like you talked about like the Roman Empire. Like that's not necessarily a thing I gotta remember, but really it's your curiosity that I gotta like remember. Like, those are some really interesting.
Those are always
How do
like
you
I feel like a
feedback?
psychologist whenever I do that, because like whenever I make founders and domain experts label data and then I look at it critically, I'm like, this label is not that good. And then I talked to them, I was like, yeah, I don't know about this. And they're like, yeah, you're right. And I mean, I'm like, but what do you want? And they're like, and it's like very, yeah, it's like the process.
Use a metaphor.
AI or anything involved. It's like, what do it's like, let me help talk to you about what you want.
Do you find that a lot of your labels actually fall in the gray area? Or is it very clear black and white?
Super gray. I mean,
super clear.
Really? Memory. Like I think for Shreya's example of like medication.
Medication is super clear as well. Like, but relevance is very clear. Is it relevant or not?
No, like that's part. Here, the goal is not to build a model. The goal is to build a product.
Right? Yeah, no, but to have that's true. Like the labels, right? Yeah, okay.
Right.
I guess
and
in
so it's like
Hamel's case, the labels are important.
Yeah, like in an example, if you do fraud, like you could just ban everyone from the Philippines. You would like definitely avoid fraud, but like you're gonna lose a whole country to like be able to access their business. So let's have a conversation of like what this actually means. Okay, like maybe you want like a passport photo. And if they have like an American driver's license, then we allow them because they're an American like buying something in the Philippines, right? Like I think the goal ends up being like building a product, and the model is just like a feature. Like the data is just a conversation you have towards building a good product.
Maybe how do you use those labels? Do you go back and edit your pipeline, your prompts, or whatever, or do you have an automated way to incorporate misalignment?
I have automated ways, but I would rather just do it by myself.
Yeah,
like
makes sense.
Like you're paying me to think for you. You're not paying me to write a prompt per se, right? You're paying me to like help you think.
So you use the labels to improve your prompt?
Yeah, like a big thing that we ended up talking about, and I won't get into specifics, but just like like the idea of like what is important to remember about a person isn't necessarily the topic, but like the ways that you talk about topics. It's like really it's about like values and beliefs, and not like Jason likes freediving is not the fact I remember. Like maybe the higher level fact is just like Jason like enjoys sports. You should be thinking about like sports more, or like physical activities.
Yeah, what I do is I make them write critiques. I touched upon this a little bit in the blog post, and then from that I understand like, okay, what's missing here with the with the critique model. You know, I have like a critique model, and I try to like align it over many iterations.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then I just do like lots of prompt engineering to try to incorporate all that stuff that they can't tell me just in a meeting. They have to like look at data and like respond to it. I have to read it and like internalize and then like try to, you know, shape something around that.
Do they write the critique from scratch? Because I saw the Philip critique was very similar to the GPT-4
Yeah.
critique.
That one was a screenshot like after I've already aligned the model to like significant.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that was almost identical word for word. Dang.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like yeah, it was pretty. I think he got so okay, like
That was spooky.
just to be clear, 1 second. So like um he does read it. Like at that point when it was already aligned, he's like, okay, this is already like really good. You just like maybe edit like 1 or 2
Makes
words,
edits.
something like that. Which is good because like he's like
Yeah.
so yeah. I mean, you could do it different ways. If you don't trust the person, don't show them the auto critique. If you trust the person and be like, look, here's a critique, you can copy it and like change it.
No, because that makes it a lot easier, right? Because writing a critique from scratch is really hard, but
Yeah.
showing some kind of draft, maybe bad critique, and then editing it, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know Shreya, you also mentioned something about, you know, giving it a bunch of product descriptions, like crafting 250-word product description for details and reviews.
Oh yeah, that's
How
probably
did
in
that
the tweet
go?
thread.
Yeah.
So I don't have the notebook kind of analysis for it. So for the paper that I'm writing next week on who validates the validators, I have 2 offline tasks. This medical thing, and then I have this product task where you try to generate descriptions for products, like SEO optimized descriptions based on information from Amazon. And those are offline experiments, and we just show that, you know, if you involve humans in the loop in thinking of brainstorming criteria and giving grades, then you actually do in fact get assertions that align with their grades. It's not like a very, very interesting finding, but just to prove that we need to have people labeling and having input and criteria. But yeah, that task, gosh, I don't know where to begin. I think the biggest failure mode. Oh, bye, Jason.
Take care, Jason.
I guess
Yeah, he
he's
just
going on
dropped
birthday.
off. He's going for his birthday now, dressed up as Steve Jobs. But Shreya, please carry on.
That task. The prompt is basically like, here's information on a product, like the basic description, the title, category, a few reviews, and the rating. Generate an SEO optimized description. And in the prompt, I also put like, don't sabotage the product, because sometimes it'll just verbatim copy like a bad review.
Bad review.
It's not useful. Yeah. And even then, it would still kind of summarize the bad reviews in the GPT output or in the LLM generated product description. And I noticed this was happening quite a bit for GPT 3.5. I would say like 20% of the time. Yeah. And I'm sure if I tried GPT-4, I just didn't wait for to run it on whatever. But I did try it on GPT-4 for like a sample, and I saw it happen at least once. But it's just the same problem with like if you're trying to run things at scale, right? And 1 in 100 fail, that's pretty bad, I would think.
Yeah.
So how do we? Yeah, maybe there's cheaper validators that we could have. Like you don't want to run LLM assertions on all of those 100 if you know the failure rate is only 1%.
Yeah, I wonder if you would have the opportunity to try with some of the Claude models, even something as cheap as Haiku. So my critique is that, you have you tried it? Was it?
No, I haven't, but that's like, once I get some time, I would love to see.
Yeah, my critique is that right now we're optimizing for needle in a haystack. And because it so optimizes for recall, it is not able to do what you want it to do, which is to remove the irrelevant or bad reviews based on the rate based on your instruction.
Yeah.
And I see that a lot as well.
Yeah. For this like precision stuff, like yeah, fine tuning definitely helps out, but of course fine tuning is a lot more expensive.
Expensive, yeah.
Labeling stuff.
Collecting the data is really expensive.
Yeah, for sure.
And
yeah, I think there's just this level of effort that is definitely useful if you know that this is a pipeline you want your business to rely on. But for one-off tasks, like I don't know if I would fine tune a model.
actually, Hamel had this really thought-provoking tweet in the sense that a lot of people are saying that fine-tuning is not necessary anymore. And we know what Hamel take how he views about that he thinks that fine-tuning will still be necessary. But then Shreya spoke about, hey, we just want to use LLMs out of the box to extract all the medications and maybe not fine-tune. Do you think that we'll still need to fine-tune in the future, or like will we be doing more fine-tuning, or will we just rely more on proprietary models because they're so good and so cheap?
Can I ask you a related question? Okay, so like this thing keeps coming up, and I think Simon Wilson tweeted about it. Like, people keep saying people keep having this debate about like fine tuning versus RAG. It drives me insane. Like,
they're two different things.
I think it's
but I keep seeing it over and over and over again, and Simon tweeted something like, "We have lost the war." Like, we have totally lost the war. Like, no one understands the difference. Like, people are like, yeah, like you don't need it. And it's very pervasive. I mean, there's lots of people who don't understand the difference. There's lots of people working like, building AI products, kind of notable people that will like repeat that and say like, hey, oh yeah, like we don't need fine tuning, you could just use RAG. So like, what do we do about like is there a better way to explain it? Like, why are we losing that battle? Like, why is that battle lost? Because I feel it is lost.
Let me explain how I try to solve that, and you can decide whether I did well or not. At work, I get a lot of questions all the time, like, "Hey Eugene, is fine tuning the same as few shot learning, prompt engineering? Is when I do prompt engineering, is it learning?" And then the last straw was, "Hey Eugene, what's the difference between fine tuning and retrieval augmented generation?" The exact same question. This was a year ago, and then they said, "Can you record a video?" I was like, "Okay." I recorded a 10-minute video explaining the difference, and then at the end of it, I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna write it all out. Everything that's in my mind, I'm gonna telepathy it to you." And that's that giant blog post that I wrote. That thankfully my business leaders and my org have read that, and those questions don't come up again. I guess because
that's awesome.
Yeah, I wrote it, that huge 66-minute thing, and then it's like, I guess they don't need to ask me the questions again because, oh man, you're just gonna make me read for an hour. maybe that's
they ask someone else. They don't ask you.
Yeah, they just don't ask me anymore. It's like, but then it's like I said, and they actually read it, and for that I'm grateful. But now we have a common understanding, right? Oh, why did Eugene put evals first? Well, evals is first, right, guys? And after that, fine tuning, retrieval, all that. So that's how I try to solve it. But I'm it's still not perfect. I still, whether we still need fine tuning or do we still need RAG with long context, with 1 million context, I have a take on that. But I just feel like sometimes it's just not. Yeah, you're right. The a lot of conversation is not very productive or even in the right direction.
It's not either or. I think that's the biggest thing that stuck out to me. Like, I didn't understand why these were being compared as if they were substitutes for each other or they were mutually exclusive. But you can do both. You can do one. You can do none.
Yes.
So I don't know, to me. But I also think that this is a problem with Twitter. I think Twitter amplifies posts that sound short and snappy and weirdly thought-provoking and mildly incorrect way more than other posts. They're not gonna publicize Eugene's 60-minute article in the same way that you'll see somebody with a blue check mark tweet like, "Oh, fine tuning is gone. Long live 1 million contexts."
Oh, like retrieval augmented generation is dead with 10 million contexts, right? I mean, that just way more viral.
It's just clickbait.
I mean, you have 10 million token context, but how are you going to find the stuff to put in there? Retrieval, I guess.
But it's
And then
like,
you're gonna log that to Langsmith, and you're gonna read all those 10 million tokens. Like,
I don't know. No, sorry, Hamel.
no, I mean, so maybe it's not worth trying to.
I
Yeah,
I think you can try to correct it in the replies.
like rather like any aspect of that 1 hour thing that you anything in there that's like you're like, oh, okay, people are like, yeah, okay, I get it, or something.
Yeah, people get it. I guess okay on that. So firstly, the one thing that I'm on my soapbox on all the time is that people just say all we need is vector search. I strongly disagree with that. So every time someone tweets about all we need is vector search, I just retweet them and just say, please guys, use the BM25 in your baseline. And sometimes that helps. And sometimes I just sneak into the replies, or like Simon writes about, oh, I think Simon wrote about the effective, like sometimes people just need exact keyword search. I just add it to my long soapbox thread of lexical search, and that just floats around. Hopefully, with more people talking about, and the need to look at data. I find all the people that talks about all the need to look at data, dive into the details, and I just hopefully basically I just borrow other people's voice and credibility. Like, oh, the importance of assertions in unit tests or in evals. Well, now I can borrow Hamel's voice because he wrote a big chunk of it. And I just say, this guy, he does the same thing, and I just tap on his credibility.
That's a good idea. Okay.
I mean, what can I do? I can only rely on getting this previous former staff engineer of Airbnb and GitHub to speak on my behalf. Yeah. So I guess one point on fine tuning and RAG, right? That is, I think people don't see this, but I see this a lot. Is that there may be times when you need segregation of documents or code. What does this mean? Is that imagine you're trying to fine tune on your company's code or your company's documents, but not everyone can see all the documents or code. Now, you could say that when you're doing fine tuning, no one actually sees anything, but the information is actually in there, and it could regurgitate that information out. So if fine tuning, you can't separate this. The model actually doesn't know, this code belongs to team A, cannot be seen by team B and everything. But with retrieval augmented generation, you can, right? You can filter via permissions, and that guarantees isolation of data. On that sense, retrieval augmented generation is essential, and fine tuning just is a non-starter. So I think that's one difference.
For sure.
Could you put that in the prompt, like some permission tuned LLMs? The thing is, I don't think it can distinguish that I was trained on this data, and I was trained on this data by 5 different teams. And in the prompt, I say, oh, only respond based on your knowledge of team A. I actually don't know if it knows that. What is team A or team B? I don't know if that's a soft question. Yeah.
This 60-minute or this blog post, is there something it was very specific to Amazon? Could it be some?
No way. I could never write anything specific Amazon, in case any of my business leaders are listening to this. But it's just about 7 patterns that I see in language models. I just posted it in
okay.
the chat.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go.
It's just the standard old school stuff. But it's really basic. So yeah.
I don't think it's basic. I think it's great.
Oh
Thank
yeah,
you.
this is good. Yeah, this is some good stuff.
So this is the few pillars I thought were necessary, and I just wrote it for them, and I just floated it. Hey guys, I think let's double down on this. And then 66 minutes too long. Can you make some TikToks? Well, Amazon's the crazy writing and reading culture. People do like to read things, and I try to trim it down. The problem with this is that I'm trying to write it for my VPs and also for my fellow scientists. So the VPs need the why and the value, and then the fellow scientists need the literature references. So yeah, maybe I should write it separately.
I get your joke about the 60-minute, like the long blog post. I had this colleague, his name is Greg Seccarelli, and like anytime there was like some contentious thing that required like something, he would just write
this
wall, like a Google document that was like 30 pages long. And just by definition, he just like one.
You just give up.
That's it. Doesn't matter. Just whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's true. Yeah. I think that does happen to some extent. Yeah. It's like, oh, better not ask you any questions. He's gonna write you a doc that you need an hour to read. Yeah. But on that note, Shreya, what else? What other things have you found in your experiments with LLMs for your paper that you think make it just hard to use in production? Like reliability is one, like you mentioned. What else, and how do you think we can solve that?
Reliability is like 10 different things. Like there's reliability that it will go in the format, it will answer the question correctly, it will appropriately listen to your exclusion instruction. Like when you say don't reference team A, like the taxonomy that we talked about in the Spade paper, each one of those like little categories of prompt edits has its own reliability jungle. I don't know what to call it around it. And I don't think they're all the same. I think more broadly, I'm trying to think about why we're coming into all of these problems around like rediscovering evals being important. Like we've always known that this is true. And I don't think this is explained by now like people who don't have ML experience or software experience are starting to build LLMs. Like, yes, it's true to some extent, but why is everybody so lost on evals? I think I've been thinking a lot about how people are actually using LLMs for different purposes than they would be using traditional ML for. They're using LLMs when they don't have data, right? They just don't have a validation set or training set. They want to open up the prompt box, type in their prompt, see what happens. It's just a completely different mindset of building things. They're not trying to build classifiers all the time. I think some people are. I mean, Eugene, I'm sure you guys at Amazon are building a lot of classifiers, but not everyone is trying to build a classifier. So traditional ML metrics don't make sense here. I mentioned before chat being the first class citizen. I don't understand this thing. Like we're saying that this like instruction tuned model is going to like magically solve a lot of problems around summarization, like be generally intelligent. But that doesn't make sense because it's been tuned on our thumbs up, thumbs down in ChatGPT. So it fundamentally seems like a completely different way that they're solving things. So I think coupled with like all of these like big, massive structural problems around like LLM engineering make it such that people who want to start LLM engineering do so because of the promise of they can get something magical very quickly in production. And then just so many, they encounter so many problems and it's so disheartening and demoralizing. I don't know how to solve that. Like fine tuning is a huge emotional investment, I think, for people who have not fine tuned before. Totally
emotional.
Right?
How come?
Not just it's like they have to learn how to do something with tools that like may not work. I think fine tuning is so finicky. Like I fine tuned one model before.
Anytime you have to fight a CUDA error is very emotional for me.
I can share with you that.
I get very like depressed every time.
Like people want some sort of confidence that, you know, if they fine tune the model, it's the right thing to do, but no one can tell them the right answer because we're like, oh, you know, I can't tell you what model to do because they all are different on every data set.
No, I can't tell you. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Every time I fine tune a model and it works, I feel like it's a little.
How often is that? How often is that? How many percent? No, how many percent does it? How many? What fraction of the time does it work?
So with large language models, the percentage is insanely high. But I think it wasn't like that in machine. Like it wasn't like that for like more general purpose stuff. But for LLMs, I think it's like a constrained problem that usually I'm trying to do this. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it tends to mostly work out after lots and lots of work. Like not the first time.
But like how many times? What's the nth time?
But every time I feel like it's a minor miracle that it does. Every time I'm serious, like there's this joy, like oh my god, I got it to work. Like that's great.
I want to share with you this example I did. It's like I was trying to fine tune a model to return structured output, like JSON, right? I mean, like it's standard, like ChatGPT, all that can do that. But for whatever reason, I had to fine tune a 7B to return structured output JSON. Holy crap! Just refused to return the instruction. It was spewing out all sorts of crap. It loves the star emoji. For whatever reason, don't ask me. It was just like star. It's like return JSON, like all you need is the squiggle bracket, but it just loves the star emoji. I was like, oh my god, what have I gotten myself into? I don't think I can actually solve this problem because fine tuning. I wanted to self-host a model and cut cost by 2 orders of magnitude. I was like, oh my god, I think I'm pretty screwed. And you know what worked? You know what was there was one thing that and maybe Hamel will know this will know that I'm a noob in making this mistake. My fine tuning training format was off
The prompt
by a single space.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I was like looking at it, it's like, and then everyone I showed it, it's like the left and the right. The left is perfect JSON, the right is just crap, just cannot be used. And I showed it in training format. What's the difference? It's like no one saw it. It's like a human wouldn't see that. Most humans wouldn't see that. I was like,
that's my
and
biggest nightmare about this whole situation.
that's why when you
Like-
tweeted about that, it resonated so much with me. I was like talking about all the janky fine tuning formatting thing. That single character is a space.
Yeah.
And
By the way, like I try not to fine tune instruction tune models because I just want.
you just do base.
Just the base, because I don't want like all that baggage, like all this like system prompt, and I just want to.
Maybe I should try that.
Because it's like more technical debt. Like I have to worry about getting that
really
same instruction prompt exactly right the way they did it. And sometimes, like usually, if you're fine tuning enough, you don't need all that. You don't need all of that ceremony. You can just go straight to the
Don't
answer.
you feel like that extra information, that extra knowledge is helpful for whatever code generation or classification or summarization task? I have that assumption. I actually never tried fine tuning base. I always start with a decent instruction tune model.
I've also never fine-tuned base, but it does make sense. Like
Yeah,
I've
it
been bit by like not having the right token in the right place, like all of these, because they all have different formats of what start and end token to have.
And the crazy thing is when I ask people on Twitter, hey, what prompt format you use? Everyone uses ChatML or I think something chat. I was like, wait, you don't use the format that was used to fine tune the model? Like that just blows my mind. I was like, wait, really? It's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's like this is my favorite
It's
format.
really weird too. Like sometimes I've used the completely wrong format, but by complete accident, and it still works.
Sometimes it works, but sometimes it just kills you.
Well, yeah, that's like sometimes they'll make it completely blow up if you do that. But like, yeah, there's some things like where you're not trying to chat with the model. You just want it to like have some input and have an output, and then then that's when I use a base model for sure. I
see. Maybe I should. I should explore that. What size do you fine tune, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I usually do like Mistral 7B. I start with Mistral 7B, and then if that doesn't do what I want, then try something else. But I try to stick in Mistral 7B.
Quantized, single GPU.
Yeah, when it comes time for inference, I do quantized, and I like usually train it with like LoRa.
LoRa on a full.
Just regular LoRa, not QLoRa.
On an 80 gigabyte GPU.
I usually do like
consumer
LoRa or QLoRa depending on what GPUs
are. Okay. You go down QLoRa.
Like, okay. With QLoRa, I can do it on like one GPU.
Yeah, that's what I like. That's what I love about it. The 7B fits on one GPU. Yeah.
In theory, you can do it all like serverless. In practice, you'll like.
Yeah, I mean, like serverless.
Too bad.
You can't do it. I just don't, because of the whole CUDA craziness and everything. Is like all the dependency. I have like my box like ready to go, like already there. I don't like to set up things and troubleshoot all that crazy.
So, and every single time with every single fine tune, right? You have to restart. Yeah, that's just
like I know. Okay, I SSH in here, and like I can just rely. Like I already like. It still gets messed up like every 2 or 3 weeks, but that's like lower than doing it every time.
Yeah. So there's this question I wanted to ask. Maybe Shreya and Hamel might be able to comment about this. So yeah, models might be fitting a needle in a haystack that prevents models from ignoring irrelevant info. I think the correct evals is something very similar to what Shreya mentioned, which is that given like some reviews, like craft the product description that is positive, right? So it's like, is it able to craft a product description that's positive, like no negative sentiment? Something like that involves a little bit of reasoning, a little bit of summarization over this, instead of just somewhere in the middle, just say Hamel ate a peanut butter cookie, and then at the end of it, just ask what cookie did he eat. I don't know. I don't know if okay. Maybe sometimes we do have tasks like this, but to me, none of my tasks are like this.
You know what's interesting? Oh, good call. Decline. You know what's super interesting in the medical experiments I was running? I did try the pizza experiment, like recall the 3 toppings that are like best for a pizza. And you know how that like sentence is injected randomly into the context,
Yeah.
and then you're supposed to retrieve it, like that being the needle in the haystack. I tried it on the medical data, and it didn't do as well as like if you scroll down to the bottom of the notebook, it doesn't do as well as what is advertised. And what I was thinking was like, okay, the only thing that's different is that I'm using data that might not be in its training set.
It could be. Yeah.
Like these transcripts are not in the training set, and they're dirty data. So like, and if you hover over the responses, it'll be things like, oh, this transcript does not contain any information about the secret ingredients for a pizza. It's about a doctor conversing with a patient. It's like, okay.
I actually also wonder if like the text that's around the needle or the overall document shouldn't be too high attention. What I mean, that for example, medical could be very high attention grabbing, right? It could be like just, I don't know, maybe some crime and punishment book that's all over the internet, right? It's just very common text that they don't pay too much, the model doesn't have to pay too much attention to, that might help this eval. So that could be one. For me, a lot of times I would have multiple documents. 2 of the documents are it pays a lot of attention to it, regardless of position, because maybe it's so provocative, and then the rest it just can't do the reasoning over. That's a problem I see.
That's so interesting. I didn't think about the attention thing. I think to answer Evan's question though, like it's there are no answers to any questions now in this LLM world. You can't say what model is good. You can't say what evals are good. You have to do it all yourself, and it really sucks. And I think I'm just upset that LLM sold us this promise of being able to do intelligent data processing in some way, and we find out that we actually can't. It's really, really unfortunate. But yeah, that's why I made my own medical eval thing, and I'm just gonna, whenever new models come up, I'm just gonna run it again before judging what's good.
I think the correct evals, I mean, if you really put it into a case of if you need to use this at work, I think the correct evals is really the task that you need to do, be it crafting product descriptions or summarizing documents. Neither haystack, maybe it's a little bit too basic. It works pretty well, I mean, right now, but I think currently we're way past that, probably overfitted that. Just like how CNN, Daily Mail, and XSum summaries, we have way surpassed that those evals maybe are not that useful anymore. And we also see a question for Hamel.
Oh, I answered it in the chat.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you have to train on output only. Yeah, I made a new mistake by training on input as well at the start. So yeah, anyone else have any questions, or like what else have you guys tried the new models that just dropped? I don't know. People have just been tweeting, like telling me about it. I just no time to try any of that.
I actually have to go. I haven't ate lunch yet, so I think I should. I don't know.
3:30.
Enjoy your lunch, Hamel. Don't work too hard writing.
The consultants are
it.
working harder.
Yeah.
Consultants are working too hard.
All right. It was really nice to see both of you.
Likewise. Take care, Hamel. Hey, wait. Okay, before Hamel leaves, let me just end the stream. All right, guys. I think that's it for this week's office hours. Take care, everyone. Bye.
All right. See you.